Halfway home from the most convincing fake date of my life, my best friend reached across the center console, laced her fingers through mine, and quietly asked, "Why keep pretending?" That was the moment my carefully managed life began coming apart. But the trouble had started 6 hours earlier when Claire Sutton walked into my apartment wearing a burgundy dress and caught me staring at her like I'd never seen a woman before. For context, I had seen Claire almost every day for 2 years. My name is Ethan Cole. I was 25, worked as an architectural drafter, and had built a peaceful little existence around predictable things: strong coffee, clean lines, and relationships that never got serious enough to hurt me. Claire was the unpredictable thing I'd somehow allowed into every corner of it. We'd met when she started working for the interior design firm across the hall from mine. On her third day, she stole my lunch from the shared refrigerator, ate half of it, then appeared at my desk holding the container. "Is this yours?" "You ate my name," I said. "It was written on the lid." "You're holding the lid." She looked down at it. "Then I have no defense." The next morning, she brought me 2 sandwiches and sat on the edge of my desk while I ate one. That became coffee, then trivia nights, then Sunday grocery runs because Claire claimed I shopped like a recently divorced lighthouse keeper. We were close enough that she knew I slept badly before big presentations. I knew she called her mother every Wednesday, even when they had nothing to say. She kept spare earrings in my glove compartment. I had the code to her apartment because she once locked herself out barefoot. People occasionally assumed we were together. We always corrected them, usually too quickly. That Friday, I was buttoning a white shirt when someone knocked 3 times and let herself in. "You could wait for permission," I called. "You could stop giving me your door code." Claire came around the corner, and every clever response I'd ever had abandoned me. The dress wasn't flashy. It fit close at the waist, fell just below her knees, and left one shoulder bare. Her dark hair, normally twisted up with a pencil, rested in soft waves against her skin. She wore the small silver earrings I'd given her for her birthday. Her smile faded slightly under my stare. "What?" "Nothing." "Ethan?" "You look—" I cleared my throat. "Different." She glanced down. "Different good? Or different like I'm about to sing in a hotel lobby?" "Different like I may need a minute." The air changed. It didn't become dramatic. Claire didn't blush and look away like we were in some perfume commercial. She just watched me, very still, and I noticed her fingers tighten around her purse. Then she smiled. "A whole minute? Maybe 30 seconds. Let's not make this weird." "Too late. I'm framing this memory." She crossed the room and adjusted my collar. Her knuckles brushed the side of my neck and my body reacted with an embarrassing level of awareness. I caught the faint scent of her perfume, orange blossom maybe, and realized the fake date plan had one serious flaw. I was attracted to my date. Not theoretically, not in the harmless way you recognize your friend is beautiful. I wanted to slide my hand around her waist and find out whether she'd stop smiling. Instead, I stepped back and reached for my jacket. "Remind me why we're lying to everyone tonight." Claire's expression tightened. The event was a fundraising dinner hosted by Sutton and Vale, the design company owned by her father and his business partner. Claire had recently been offered a promotion to creative director. She'd earned it, but a few senior employees had begun whispering that she was too impulsive, too young, and too distracted by her non-existent love life to handle major clients. Her father hadn't started those rumors, but he hadn't exactly shut them down. Then Claire's former boyfriend, Mason, announced he was attending the dinner with one of the firm's new consultants. Claire's solution was apparently me. "You make me look stable," she said. "I own 3 identical gray sweaters." "Exactly, stability." "You said your family already thinks we're dating." "My sister thinks we're dating. My mother hopes we're dating. My father thinks you're the reason I'm not dating anyone else." "And what do you think?" The question escaped before I could soften it. Claire looked at me for 1 second too long. "I think you're the only man I trust not to make tonight about himself." That should have felt like a compliment. It did. It also felt like a door being gently closed. I nodded and offered her my arm. Then let's go convince wealthy people that I'm emotionally available. She slipped her hand through my elbow. Try not to overact. I've already moisturized. She laughed, leaning into me as we walked out, and I told myself that familiar warmth in my chest was friendship. The dinner was held in a restored train station outside the city, all vaulted windows, warm brass lights, and tables dressed in cream linen. The moment we entered, Claire's posture changed. Her shoulders went rigid. Without thinking, I placed my hand at the small of her back. She looked up at me. You okay? I asked. Ask me after dessert. We can leave before dessert. There's chocolate cake. Then we stay. I'm not letting fear cost us cake. Her mouth curved, but her eyes softened in a way that made my hand feel suddenly intimate against her dress. Claire's mother hugged me as if I'd returned from military service. Her sister Jenna took one look at my hand on Claire's back and mouthed, "Finally." I ignored her. Mostly. For the next hour, Claire and I performed. Or at least, I thought we did. I pulled out her chair. She stole roasted potatoes from my plate. When an older client asked how long we'd been together, Claire answered, "Long enough that he knows not to speak to me before coffee." And yet, I added, not long enough that she's learned to replace the coffee she drinks at my apartment. The table laughed. Claire rested her hand on my knee beneath the linen. It was probably for effect. No one could see it. That detail bothered me more than it should have. Later, while the band played something slow, Mason approached our table. He looked polished, expensive, and entirely too pleased with himself. "Claire," he said, "I didn't realize you were bringing Ethan." There was something in his tone that reduced me from a man to a convenient accessory. Claire's hand found mine. "I didn't bring him," she said. "He came with me." A small distinction. A meaningful one. Mason looked at our joined hands. "So this is real now?" Claire inhaled, but I answered first. "Would it change how you speak to her if it was?" His smile slipped. Claire turned toward me. I expected gratitude, maybe relief. Instead, there was heat in her eyes. "Yes," she said, still looking at me. "It's real." Then she rose, tugged me toward the dance floor, and placed my hand on her waist. I knew we were supposed to look convincing. I just wasn't prepared for how naturally she fit against me. "You didn't have to do that," she murmured. "Neither did you." Her fingers slid behind my neck. "You challenged him. He was being rude. You get a line between your eyebrows when you're jealous." I wasn't jealous. Of course not. She moved closer. For one reckless second, my thumb traced the curve of her waist. Claire's breath caught and the teasing disappeared from her face. Neither of us spoke. The room seemed to drift away until her sister passed nearby and whispered, "This is painful to watch." Claire laughed and lowered her forehead to my shoulder, but she didn't step away. By the time we left, the performance had become dangerously hard to separate from the truth. Rain softened the highway as I drove. Claire had kicked off her heels and turned slightly toward me, one knee tucked beneath her. We spent the first 20 minutes arguing over whether I'd been too intense with Mason. Then the conversation faded. Her hand rested between us on the console, palm up. I looked at it once, then again. Finally, I placed my hand in hers. Claire threaded our fingers together and watched the dark road ahead. Her thumb moved slowly over my knuckle, too tender to be part of an act no one else could see. We were halfway home when she spoke. "Ethan?" "Yeah?" Her grip tightened. "Why keep pretending?" For several seconds, the only sound was the sweep of the windshield wipers. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "Claire, what are you asking me?" She turned toward the window, but she didn't release my hand. "I don't know yet." That's reassuring. "I'm trying to be honest." "So am I." "No, you're trying to make a joke because you're nervous." I glanced at her. "I can be honest and funny. You're rarely both at the same time." Despite everything, I laughed. Claire didn't. Her thumb had gone still against my hand. "At dinner," she said, "when you touched my back, I told myself it was for show. Then you held my hand under the table when no one was looking. You touched my knee first." "I know." and on the dance floor. I know, Ethan. The softness in her voice shut me up. She took a breath. None of it felt fake to me. The confession landed somewhere beneath my ribs. Rain streaked the windshield, turning every light into a blur. I needed to look at her, but the road narrowed ahead. When I spotted a 24-hour diner with a nearly empty lot, I signaled and pulled in. Claire watched me park beneath a flickering light. "Very romantic," she said. I panicked. "I can tell." I turned off the engine. Rain tapped the roof around us, enclosing the car in a small, private world. When I faced her, she had tucked one bare foot beneath the other leg. Her makeup had softened around her eyes. One side of her hair was flattened from leaning against the headrest. She looked less like the dazzling woman who'd walked into my apartment and more like my Claire. That only made it worse. "I've thought about kissing you," I admitted. Her lips parted. There it was. No taking it back. "How often?" "I feel like there's no safe answer." "Try the true one." I looked down at our joined hands. The first time was probably that trivia night when you threatened to fight the host over a ruling. He was wrong. The Caspian Sea is a lake. You climbed onto your chair. I was passionate. You were terrifying. She smiled and my chest tightened. "That was 8 months ago," she said. 9. "You remember." Unfortunately, I remember all of it. Her smile vanished again, replaced by something tender and uncertain. "Why didn't you say anything?" Because friendship with Claire had become the most reliable relationship in my life. Because my parents had spent years proving that love could turn every shared memory into ammunition. Because I knew how to lose girlfriends, but I had no idea how to survive losing her. I gave her the shortened version. "I didn't want to ruin us." Claire looked at me for a long moment. "You don't get to decide for both of us what ruins us." "That sounds fair when you say it like that." "It is fair." "I know." She shifted closer, our clasped hands settling against my thigh. "And for the record," she said, "I've thought about kissing you too." My pulse jumped. "Since when?" "That morning you brought soup when I had the flu. I left it outside your door. You also left cold medicine, crackers, and a note reminding me that dehydration was not a personality trait. That was basic community care." You drew a little skull next to it. "For emphasis." She laughed, then lifted her free hand to my face. Her palm was warm against my cheek. Every argument I'd made for 2 years disappeared. "Tell me to stop," she whispered. I leaned into her touch. "I'm trying to think of a polite way to say, absolutely not." Claire kissed me. It wasn't cautious. Her fingers slid into my hair as her mouth moved over mine, warm and sure, and I forgot the rain, the diner, the fact that the gear shift was digging into my knee. I caught her waist and pulled her as close as the center console allowed. She made a soft sound that nearly ended my ability to reason. This was Claire, the woman who sent me photographs of badly designed hotel bathrooms. The woman who knew which silences meant I needed company and which meant I needed space. And she was kissing me as if she'd been waiting. When we finally separated, her forehead rested against mine. "Well," she breathed, "your review feels incomplete." "I'm processing." "Take your time." She kissed me again, shorter this time, smiling against my mouth. "5 stars," she said. "Terrible location." I laughed, then brushed my thumb along her cheek. The tenderness of the gesture startled us both. Claire searched my face. "What happens now?" I wanted to say we went home, slept badly, and pretended this had been an emotional side effect of expensive wine and public performance. But I didn't want that. I wanted tomorrow morning. I wanted next Friday. I wanted to learn whether she stole blankets and whether kissing her would always feel like finding something I hadn't known was missing. "I take you on a real date," I said. Her eyebrows lifted. "You're asking me out in a diner parking lot?" "I'm building on the established atmosphere." "What would this real date involve?" "Food you don't steal from my plate." "So, separate tables?" "Possibly separate restaurants." Claire's smile widened. When? Tomorrow. We spent tonight together. Tonight was fake. She moved closer, her lips brushing the corner of my mouth. Not all of it. I nearly kissed her again, but her phone began vibrating inside her purse. She groaned and pulled it out. Her expression changed when she read the screen. What is it? My father. She turned the phone toward me. The message was brief. Dinner went well. Several board members commented on how settled you seemed. We should discuss the promotion Monday. Claire dropped the phone into her lap. The warmth in the car thinned. He thinks I deserve the promotion because I have a boyfriend, she said. You deserved it yesterday. I know that. But if we start dating now, everyone will think tonight was some calculated little performance to make me look respectable. It was a calculated performance. Her eyes flashed. Not the promotion, I added quickly. I meant pretending to date. Your work stands on its own. That isn't the point. Then tell me the point. She pulled her hand from mine and rubbed her forehead. The point is that I don't want us to become tangled up in whether I get a job. I don't want you wondering if I kissed you because tonight worked. Do you think that? No. Neither do I. Her gaze met mine. But, she said, you're terrified of relationships, and I'm about to walk into a week where everyone will be evaluating my judgment. That isn't exactly ideal. No, I agreed. It isn't. Silence settled between us. This time it felt colder. Claire picked up one of her heels from the floor. Maybe we should slow down. The words hit harder than they should have, considering we'd been something other than friends for approximately 12 minutes. I forced a nod. Sure, she studied me. You're doing it again. Doing what? Acting like you don't care so you can leave before anyone leaves you. I stared at her. Claire set the shoe down and reached for my hand again. I said, slow down, Ethan. I didn't say stop. Hope was an uncomfortable thing. It made my chest feel too exposed. What does slow mean? One real date, she said. No audience, no Mason, no family, no promotion, just us. And after that, we tell the truth. About what? Her fingers threaded through mine again. Whether this is worth risking the friendship for. I raised our joined hands and kissed her knuckles. It is for me. Her eyes softened, but she shook her head. That's not the truth yet. That's adrenaline and a very good kiss. A 5-star kiss. Don't become unbearable. Too late. She leaned over and kissed me once, lingering just long enough to ruin any chance of driving calmly. Tomorrow night, she whispered. Pick me up at 7. Then she settled back into her seat, still holding my hand. For the rest of the drive, I thought about our first real date, and tried not to think about the fact that by the end of it, I might have to choose between protecting what we had and asking Claire for everything I wanted. At 7 the next evening, Claire opened her apartment door wearing jeans, ankle boots, and a green sweater I'd seen at least 50 times. I still forgot what I was going to say. She leaned against the frame. Need another minute? 10 seconds. Losing your stamina, Cole. I held up the paper bag in my hand. I brought provisions. She peeked inside. Chocolate-covered pretzels? And gummy bears. Are you taking me to a middle school dance? Better. That confidence is concerning. The truth was, I'd spent most of the day overthinking everything. Restaurants felt too formal. A movie meant 2 hours without talking. Cooking for her risked food poisoning and emotional symbolism. So I'd planned the most Claire-specific evening I could. Our first stop was a used bookstore she'd been trying to visit for months. It occupied an old 3-story house where every room was crowded with mismatched shelves and crooked handwritten signs. Claire stopped on the porch. You remembered. You sent me the link 17 times. 4. 17 emotionally. Inside, we made a rule. Each of us had 20 minutes to find a book the other person had to read. Claire handed me a romance novel with a shirtless man holding a sword on the cover. I'm not reading this in public. You need to challenge your ideas about masculinity. He's wearing leather pants in a snowstorm. He's secure. I gave her a book about minimalist interiors. She stared at the stark white room on the cover. This house looks like no one has ever laughed in it. You're judging before reading. I'm an interior designer. Judging rooms is literally my profession. She bought both books. Afterward, we ate noodles from cardboard containers beside the river. White lights hung through the trees, reflecting in the dark water. Claire sat close enough that our knees touched. It should have felt like any of the dozens of meals we'd shared. It didn't. Every glance lasted longer. Every casual brush of her hand carried memory. I knew what her mouth tasted like now. It was impossible to unknow. Claire caught me watching her. What? You have sauce on your lip. She wiped the wrong side. The other... I started. Then I leaned in and kissed it away. Her eyes closed briefly. When they opened, the teasing was gone. That was efficient, she whispered. I'm committed to excellent service. She curled her fingers into the front of my coat and kissed me properly. There was no center console between us this time. I slid my hand beneath her hair, drawing her closer as the paper container in my lap tilted dangerously. Claire broke away and grabbed it before dinner ended up on both of us. Good instincts, I said. I'm protecting the noodles. You're replaceable. That's humbling. She smiled, but her fingers stayed tangled with mine. We walked along the river afterward, sharing the pretzels. The air had turned cold, so I tucked our joined hands into my coat pocket. This feels suspiciously like a relationship, Claire said. Do you want me to walk 6 feet away? No. She moved closer, her shoulder pressed against mine. Then we'll risk it. At the end of the path was a small public garden, empty except for an elderly couple sitting near the fountain. Claire led me to a bench beneath a bare maple tree. We need to do the truth part, she said. I was hoping you'd forgotten. I never forget uncomfortable conversations. You forgot that parking ticket for 6 months. I emotionally rejected it. She turned sideways to face me, one leg folded beneath her. 3 questions each, she said. No dodging. Are there prizes? Potentially. What kind? That's your first question. I laughed. Fine, you start. Claire's expression softened. What are you actually afraid will happen if we date? I looked toward the fountain. She waited. My parents hadn't simply divorced. They'd spent years separating and reconciling, promising that this time would be different. Every reunion pulled me back into believing we might become a family again. Every breakup taught me that promises were just pauses before the next exit. I'm afraid I'll get used to having you, I said. Then if it ends, every good thing between us gets rewritten as a mistake. Claire's knee touched mine. I wouldn't do that. You can't promise how we'd feel after. No, but I can promise I wouldn't make loving you a mistake. The word hung between us. Loving. Claire seemed to hear it too. Her gaze dropped to my mouth, then returned to my eyes. My turn, I said, my voice rougher than before. Why me? Her eyebrows lifted. That sounds dangerously close to asking for compliments. I'll survive. She considered her answer. Because you make room for me, she said. Everyone else seems to want a smaller version. Quieter, more careful, less intense. You complain constantly, but you never ask me to be less. I like intense. I noticed. And loud. You love my loud. I tolerate it beautifully. Claire smiled, but her eyes had gone bright. You're also the first person I want to tell things to, she continued. Good or bad. Sometimes I'll be in a meeting and I'll start imagining what sarcastic comment you'd make. That's deeply romantic. It is to me. I brought her hand to my chest. It is to me too. Her palm rested over my heartbeat. We forgot the remaining questions. I kissed her slowly, without the urgency of the night before. Claire leaned into me, one hand sliding around the back of my neck. When her lips parted beneath mine, the whole world seemed to narrow to her warmth and the pressure of her fingers. She was the one who pulled back. Come home with me, she whispered. My pulse stumbled. She saw the answer on my face, then added, Not for that, not yet. I knew that. You absolutely did not. I had a range of interpretations. She laughed against my shoulder. At her apartment, we changed into old clothes and curled up on her couch beneath a blanket. She put on a terrible renovation show so we could criticize the design choices. Halfway through the second episode, she rested her head on my chest. Ethan? Yeah? I don't need the other questions. I looked down at her. I want this, she said. Not as an experiment. Not until something gets complicated. I want to date you for real. For once, fear wasn't the strongest thing I felt. I kissed her forehead. Good. Good? I had a more impressive speech planned. Let's hear it. I want you to. That's the impressive speech? I'm better with drafting software. She climbed halfway onto my lap and kissed me until neither of us remembered the television. Later, I fell asleep with her tucked against my side. For the first time in years, waking up beside someone didn't make me search for an exit. It made me want breakfast. On Monday morning, Claire left early for her promotion meeting. I walked to work feeling as if some essential law of gravity had changed overnight. At 10, her father appeared beside my desk. Richard Sutton was usually cordial with me. That morning, he closed the conference room door before speaking. I understand you care about my daughter, he said. I do. The promotion vote is Wednesday. Some board members believe Claire's relationship with you suggests she's becoming more settled. I don't see what that has to do with her work. Neither do I, but perception matters. I dislike the direction immediately. What are you asking? Keep things quiet until after the vote. No attending company functions together, no public declarations. If anyone asks, you've been seeing each other for some time. So, you want us to lie more convincingly. I want Claire to receive the opportunity she deserves. He left before I could tell him that controlling her choices was exactly what she hated. I should have called her immediately. Instead, I waited, telling myself she needed to focus on the meeting. At noon, Claire entered my office. Her face told me she already knew. My father said you agreed to keep us quiet. I didn't agree. You didn't tell him no. I barely got a word in. But you also didn't call me. I didn't want to add pressure before your meeting. Her eyes closed briefly. What? You made the decision for me again. That's not what happened. Then tell me what you want. I want you to get the promotion. That isn't what I asked. I stood and came around the desk. Claire. She stepped back. The distance was less than a foot. It felt enormous. I told the board the truth, she said. That Friday was our first date and that my personal life has nothing to do with my qualifications. Pride rose through me. Good. They postponed the vote. My anger sharpened. Because of us? Because they're cowards. She folded her arms, guarding herself. And now, she said, I need to know whether you're willing to stand beside me when being with me costs something, or only when it feels easy. The honest answer was yes. The frightened answer was, I don't know. For most of my life, I'd obeyed the frightened answer. I looked at Claire standing one step beyond my reach and understood that if I did it again, I would lose her anyway. Yes, I said. I'm willing. Her arms remained folded. That came quickly. Because it's true. Then why didn't you tell my father that? Because he caught me off guard. Because some part of me thought staying quiet would protect you. I paused. And because hiding is my first instinct when something matters too much. Claire's expression softened, but she didn't close the distance. I'm not asking you to fight my battles. I know. I don't need you confronting my father or convincing the board I deserve the job. I know that too. What I need is for you not to disappear while I'm fighting them. The distinction cut cleanly through every excuse I'd made. I reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to refuse. She let me take it. I won't disappear. Her gaze dropped to our fingers. You can't promise forever after one real date. No, but I can promise Wednesday. She looked up. What happens Wednesday? The vote. The board is holding a reception first. My father thinks I should attend alone. Do you want me there? Yes. Then I'll be there. Claire searched my face as if she expected to find hesitation. I brought her hand to my mouth and kissed her palm. I'm terrified, I admitted, but I'm still coming. Her fingers curved against my cheek. That, she whispered, is the answer I needed. I kissed her in the middle of my office. It wasn't the desperate kind of kiss that erased problems, it was quiet and deliberate. Her hand settled at my waist, mine framed her face, and we stayed close after our mouths parted. We're still going to argue about this later, she said. Can I submit visual aids? No. A flowchart? Especially no flowchart. Her smile finally appeared. It felt like being allowed to breathe again. Wednesday evening, I stood outside the Sutton and Vale reception wearing the same suit I'd worn on our fake date. Claire met me at the entrance. She wore navy this time, her hair pinned up, the silver earrings catching the light. Her gaze moved over me. Is that your only suit? I prefer the term signature look. You look handsome. I knew there was a reason I came. She stepped closer and straightened my tie. You're nervous, I said. I'm furious. It's similar, but with better posture. Do you want to leave? No. Then what do you want? Claire took my hand. This. We walked in together. People noticed, her father certainly did. Richard's gaze landed on our joined hands before moving to my face. He didn't confront us. He only gave a restrained nod and turned back to the board members around him. Claire squeezed my fingers. Still here, she murmured. Unfortunately for your father. For me. I looked at her. She held my gaze. You're here for me. Yes. Good answer. Mason approached 10 minutes later carrying 2 glasses of champagne and an expression that suggested he'd been waiting for an opportunity. I heard the vote was postponed, he said to Claire. It was. That must be frustrating. I'll recover. He offered her one of the glasses. She didn't take it. His gaze flicked toward me. Still playing the supportive boyfriend? Before I could answer, Claire slid her arm around my waist. He's not playing. Mason's smile tightened. Everything moved fast. Only if you weren't paying attention for the last 2 years, she said. I looked down at her. She lifted an eyebrow. What? Nothing. Different good? Very good. Mason left without giving us the champagne. Claire watched him go. That was satisfying. I was about to deliver a devastating response. What was it? I hadn't decided. So devastating. Richard called the room to attention before I could defend myself. Claire had prepared a formal presentation about the projects she'd led, the clients she'd retained, and the revenue her designs had generated. She didn't mention me. She didn't mention Mason. She didn't apologize for her age or her personality. She stood at the front of that room and made herself impossible to diminish. I had never wanted her more. When she finished, the applause began slowly, then filled the room. The board left for the vote. Claire disappeared onto the terrace and I followed. Cold air swept around us. Through the windows, people continued talking as if her future weren't being decided behind a closed door. I think I'm going to be sick, she said. Would you like me to hold your hair? It's pinned. I'll hold the pins. She laughed once, then covered her face. I drew her against me. For a moment, she resisted. Not me, but the vulnerability of needing anyone. Then her arms circled my waist and she pressed her cheek to my chest. What if I don't get it? She asked. You'll still be exceptional. That sounded rehearsed. I had 2 days. She pinched my side. I tightened my arms around her. If you don't get it, you decide what comes next. You stay and fight, or you leave and build something better. Either way, I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to. She tipped her face toward mine. And if I get it, I become insufferable about dating the creative director. You're already insufferable. Then nothing changes. Claire rose onto her toes and kissed me. The glass doors opened behind us before I could deepen it. Jenna stepped outside, grinning. They're ready. The board's decision was unanimous. Claire got the promotion. Her father announced it. The room applauded again. Claire thanked the board, her team, and the mentors who had supported her work. Then she crossed the room directly to me. I got it, she whispered, almost sounding surprised. You got it. She threw her arms around my neck. I lifted her off the floor and she laughed into my shoulder. There were board members watching. Her father was watching. Neither of us cared. Later, after champagne and congratulations, Richard found us near the exit. You were right to be honest, he told Claire. I should have shut down the questions about your private life before they reached the board. Yes, she said, but you should have. He accepted that without argument. Then he turned to me. And I shouldn't have asked you to hide. No, I said. You shouldn't have. Claire elbowed me. What? We're being honest. To my surprise, Richard almost smiled. Outside, Claire took my hand, but she was quiet as we walked toward my car. You okay? I asked. I don't know. You just got the job. I know. That's generally considered good news. She stopped beneath a street lamp. What happens now, Ethan? We celebrate. I mean with us. The fear was back in her eyes. Not fear that I didn't want her. Fear that I'd wanted the challenge, the kiss, the dramatic moment, and that ordinary life would send me retreating. I stepped closer. Now I drive you home, I said. Tomorrow I bring you coffee. Friday, you criticize my apartment until I let you move the couch. Sunday, we buy groceries and you put expensive cheese in my cart while pretending not to. Her eyes shone. And after that? I don't know, every after. Claire started to look away. I touched her chin, bringing her gaze back to mine. But I know I love you. She went completely still. My heart pounded, but I didn't take the words back. I think I have for a while, I continued. I just called it friendship because friendship felt safer. Claire's breath trembled. Say something. That was more than 3 questions. I'm panicking. I can tell. Then she pulled me down and kissed me beneath the street lamp. When she finally drew back, her eyes were wet and her smile was unmistakable. I love you too, she whispered. But if you run tomorrow, I'm keeping your gray sweaters. I rested my forehead against hers. I'm staying. This time, when I said it, I wasn't making a promise about forever. I was choosing her for the next moment. And then the one after that. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the terrifying awareness that I had told my best friend I loved her. Claire stood in my kitchen wearing my shirt and one of my 3 identical gray sweaters. I leaned against the doorway. That's theft. She looked down at the sweater. You own backups. They serve different functions. Name one. That's the formal gray. She glanced at the faded sleeve. You wore this to assemble my bathroom cabinet. It was a formal cabinet. Claire laughed, but uncertainty lingered in her eyes. I crossed the kitchen and wrapped my arms around her waist. I'm still here, I said. You live here. You know what I mean. Her hand settled against my chest. I do. I'm still terrified. I know. But I'm not leaving. She rose onto her toes and kissed me, slow and warm, until the coffee machine beeped behind her. That's good, she murmured, because I've already reorganized your spice cabinet. I looked over her shoulder. You threw away the paprika? It expired 4 years ago. It had sentimental value. Dating Claire wasn't as effortless as being her friend. It was better. We still had trivia nights, grocery runs, and arguments about whether a chair could possess emotional warmth. But now she kissed me when I brought her coffee. She fell asleep with her hand beneath my shirt. I learned that she stole blankets, talked during movies, and needed exactly 20 silent minutes after difficult meetings before she wanted comfort. She learned that, when I went quiet, I wasn't always pulling away. Sometimes I simply needed help finding the words, and sometimes I was pulling away. Our first real fight happened 2 months later when she left a toothbrush at my apartment. I saw it beside mine and felt that old instinct tighten around my chest. Instead of admitting that, I spent the evening making unnecessary jokes about her gradual occupation of my bathroom. Claire finally set down her wine glass. If you don't want me here, say it. I didn't say that. You've mentioned the toothbrush 6 times. It has an unusually large handle. Ethan! I looked away. She waited, giving me the chance to retreat behind sarcasm. For once I didn't. It makes this feel permanent, I said. Her face fell, and I hated myself for putting that hurt there. I can take it home. That isn't what I want. Then what do you want? I crossed the room, opened the drawer beside the sink, and removed the collection of spare razor blades, batteries, and instruction manuals I'd been keeping for no reason. I set the empty drawer in front of her. I want this to stop scaring me. Claire studied the drawer, then me. You're giving me bathroom storage? It's my version of emotional growth. It's half a drawer. We can negotiate expansion after a 90-day review. She tried not to smile. I stepped closer. I'm sorry, I want your toothbrush here. I want you here. I just need practice believing that wanting something doesn't guarantee I'll lose it. Claire touched my face. I can work with honest fear, she said. I can't work with jokes that make me feel unwanted. Understood. And I want the whole drawer. Hostile takeover. She kissed me anyway. By summer, she had the entire drawer, most of the closet, and an official key. By autumn, we stopped pretending she lived anywhere else. She moved the couch 7 inches to the left. I complained for 3 days before admitting the room looked better. She put expensive cheese in our shopping cart. I started buying it before she could. Her promotion brought larger projects, longer hours, and the occasional argument with her father. But Richard learned to treat her decisions as her own. Claire learned she didn't have to prove her independence by refusing every offer of support. I learned how to stand beside her without trying to lead the fight. A year after our fake date, Sutton and Vale held its annual fundraising dinner in the same restored train station. This time, nobody needed an explanation when Claire took my hand. Mason no longer worked with the firm. Jenna still mouthed, "Finally," whenever she saw us kiss. Richard introduced Claire as the creative director who had brought in the company's largest project of the year. Then he introduced me as her boyfriend. "Partner," Claire corrected. Richard looked at me. "Should I ask?" "Probably not," I said. Claire pinched my side. After dinner, we danced beneath the brass lights. She wore the burgundy dress. "You did that deliberately," I murmured. "I have no idea what you mean. My ability to speak has been compromised." "Again? You're a consistent threat." She slid her arms behind my neck. "Are you jealous tonight?" "Of everyone who's allowed to look at you." "That's almost romantic." "I practiced." She smiled and kissed me in the middle of the dance floor. There was no performance left in it. On the drive home, rain began tapping against the windshield. Claire kicked off her heels and turned toward me, one knee tucked beneath her. Her hand rested palm up on the console, just as it had the year before. I laced my fingers through hers. Halfway home, she looked at me. "Why are you smiling?" I signaled and pulled into the same diner parking lot. Claire glanced at the flickering light above us. "You've really committed to this location. 5-star history." I turned off the engine and reached into my coat. Her eyes widened when she saw the small velvet box. "Ethan, I had a speech. What happened to it?" "You wore the dress." Her free hand covered her mouth. I opened the box. "I used to think loving someone meant giving them the power to leave," I said. "Then you taught me it also means giving them a reason to stay. You're my best friend, my partner, and the person I want beside me for every ordinary tomorrow I get." Claire was crying now. So was I, though I planned to deny it. "Claire Sutton, will you marry me?" She climbed across the center console before answering. Her mouth found mine, her hands framed my face, and the ring box nearly ended up beneath the passenger seat. I laughed against her lips. "I need a verbal response." "Yes," she whispered. "Obviously, yes." "Good." I had a backup speech, but it was mostly about the couch. I slipped the ring onto her finger. She held her hand up between us, watching the stone catch the weak parking lot light. Then her expression turned mischievous. "So," she said, "why keep pretending? I'm out of reasons." 6 months later, we married in the public garden where we'd had our first honest conversation. Jenna cried through the ceremony. Richard danced with his daughter and apologized when he stepped on her dress. Our bookstore owner sent us the ridiculous romance novel with a note saying the secure man in leather pants had brought us luck. Claire kept her last name. We kept the apartment, the badly positioned couch, and the ongoing dispute over my gray sweaters. Some mornings I still woke with the old fear that happiness was temporary. Then Claire would reach for me in her sleep, her ring cool against my skin, and I would remember that staying wasn't one promise made beneath dramatic lights. It was coffee, shared groceries, honest arguments, her toothbrush beside mine. It was choosing each other in 1,000 ordinary moments. And every night when Claire's fingers found mine beneath the blankets, I chose her again. What would you have done if your best friend held your hand halfway home from a fake date and asked, "Why keep pretending?" Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell me your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.